Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We do have an evening gentleman with us, Louis Rayel. He's about 7 hours from us, somewhere out in the world in the good Holy Land. Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning here in Chicago. And in our topic today, we're going to focus on AI governance in the MedTech industry. And well, I have a surprise for you, but that's okay. Let's talk about the MedTech industry for now. This is presented by the Fixa team. We'll tell you a little bit about who the Fixa teams are, which hopefully some of you on this webinar do know who they are. Okay. Um, AI is not only impacting the medtech industry, obviously, right? As you all know, it's literally impacting the pharma, biotech, med device, clinical research, regulatory, and this is just to name few. It is improving a lot of things for us: efficiency, productivity, speed, etc. However, we and the reason and the surprise I meant, we're talking about MedTech, but I have this young lady, Margie Hindley from Taiho Oncology, and this young man, Lou Ayel from GSK. So really, they're both from Pharma Biotech, and Paul Summer, who's gonna tell us who he is in few minutes. Fixa team, for those of you who do not know, I'd just like to give them a shout out. This large group of individual, and as you can see, there are people on the Fixa team still. Some folks have left the Fixa team, either retire, change job, change position from different companies. This team has been together since almost 2015, since my old days when I was with Baxter Healthcare. I joined to work on the recommendation for the computer software assurance. Uh, Everyone on this team had their input, had their feedback. We worked really hard to bring CSA to the industry. It was led from the FDA um, by Cisco Vicente, who's no longer actually with the FDA now. He moved on to Getinga, but he still attend our meeting occasionally. And CSA has made a great stride in the industry. I know Louis benefit from it a lot. So is Margie in their organization implementing CSA, realize the value and cost efficiency, productivity. However, CSA is no longer the only sexy thing, right? I used to say back in the day, CSA is really the sexy way of saying GAM 5. GAM 5 has been talking about risk-based approach for many, many years. But finally, the FDA made it kind of official in the draft guidance. The draft guidance is in good health. It's still on the shelf waiting for some administration changes or something to get it pushed over the finish line. However, organizations do not care at this point because it just made sense. Whether there is a draft guidance or not, lean validation, risk based approach. And guess what? In the AI world that we live in, if you don't have something like CSA to actually implement your AI across your organization, you're going to be behind everyone else. All right, with that said, I am going to introduce my panelists, and we're going to start out with Paul, who's going to give a brief bio, pass it on to Margie, then Louis, and I'm the last one. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Colin. Um, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Paul Sumner. Hope I don't have a senior moment here because I 40 plus years. I forget how many years now. I've been in life sciences, predominantly in the med tech. Um, some of you may know me. Just my recent stint has been with MDIC for 3 years. Um, Conducting, pretty much directing the Case for Quality program with MDIC. And since March, I've been kind of moving on to another journey in my life. I also, prior to MDIC, I was a chief compliance officer for both McKesson Corporation as well as the shoot off from McKesson, Change Healthcare. Um, and here I am, kind of winging it on my own a little bit with this great Fixa and CSA team. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope this session will be very informative and lighthearted today. Margie?
Thank you, Paul. Hi, my name is Margaret Henley. Other people call me Margie Henley. I am at Taiho Oncology, and I've been here for about 2.5 years. But prior to that, I've had more than 20 years experience in the pharma and the consumer health industries, companies as well. I'd rather not you can look on LinkedIn for the companies. I'd rather not say them here. But when I came to Taiho, we did a full CSA transformation, and we are now full on doing CSA, and it's been a wonder. We actually complete projects on time, which is, I think, the biggest advantage, um, because so many times IT projects and implementations don't happen on time. So that, I would say, is my biggest feather in my cap, is that they actually go on time. I have a small team, and we get it all, and we actually get it all done. I am here today because everyone always talks about AI and how you validate models and things like that. And usually, what happens is AI comes to the person who's the validation, usually in the validation group, because how do we validate? But we're not here to talk about that, but we're here to really talk about first steps. Um, So I am involved right now with my company in whatever we have to do in terms of AI at its infancy. So that's why I'm here. I'm part of the Fixa team, and I'm here to help, and I can hopefully provide some insight as to if you're just starting out with your AI journey, AI governance journey. Hopefully, I can give you um, that type of an insight. So off to you, Louis.
Yep, thank you. Louis Rayal, I work for GSK. I lead the governance, risk, and compliance. In total, I have over 27 years in this field, in the risk and compliance. Over the last 6 to 7 years, we have been heavily engaged in automation tools. And in the last couple of years, we've been really focusing on AI implementation, governance, etc. So happy to be here, happy to be part of this panel discussion, and hopefully provide some insights into some of the things that we've done over the last couple of years and how that can contribute to and help others here on the call as well. Thank you. Khaled?
Thank you, Louis. You're awesome. By the way, Louis started when he was 5, actually. So thank you for the 27 years of service. And I've known Louis for quite a bit. And again, these friends of mine, we meet bi-weekly, and we have tons of chat. And really, what triggered this webinar specifically is the conversation we have informally. And I would like for this to continue as such, right? It's because we all speak from the heart when we're passionate about something. So nothing is official, nothing, this is all your opinion, and I want to make sure that you guys are comfortable speaking to it from your experience. All right. Now, with that said, as AI and machine learning continue to evolve and find their place across enterprise systems, from QMS, LIMS to ERP, MES, we all know, we're all familiar with those systems at the very least, right? Our industry really stands at a crossroads, right? The promise of AI is undeniable. Faster insights, greater efficiency, and better patient outcomes. We all know that, and we've seen it. By the way, AI did not start yesterday. It started over 20 plus years ago. We're just calling it AI today. But with that promise comes responsibility. And that reminds me with the 2002 Spider-Man movie when Uncle Ben tells Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. So, with that responsibility, I'm going to turn it to my good friend Paul to really talk about, AI governance. We keep saying we can do whatever we want, but can we? So, Paul, I'm going to turn it to you and give us a little bit about what is AI governance.
That's an interesting question. So,
Very
and
broad.
yeah, I didn't get much sleep last night because of this creepy guy behind me, Dr. Borg and the Collective. I feel like I was assimilated in my dreams. But anyway, so what is governance? The knee-jerk response, if you were to ask the average layman, it they will say, well, it's government, it's regulations, it's laws, compliance, right? Um, it's more than that. It's if you consider AI just like previous technologies that underwent rapid growth, clinical decision software, for example, it really is about responsible and ethical development of artificial intelligence and machine learning, um, so that you can, number one, identify risks, right? And what are the risks to an organization? What are the risks for those of you that know me? I have a passion about patient safety first. Um, it's to improve healthcare and improve safety and efficacy of our products. We have to treat it as a complete life cycle and be responsible in the development, in in the use, and also the outcome of our product in AI, right? So governance is more than just regulations and laws. Those are coming, but um, it really has to do, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, building trust, whether it's a tool you use internally or whether it's a product around AI functionality that you provide to the end users, the healthcare providers. That's sort of it in a nutshell. I'm sure Margie and Louis can expand upon that, but
Great. Thank you, Paul.
mm,
Margie, from your perspective, I know you're swimming in this entire thing now. There's a lot of questions coming at you because you're the compliance lady, you're the quality lady. Everyone is coming to you. Well, is it really your responsibility all by yourself? So I know you have a lot of questions. I'm hoping Louis will come and help us out because he's the expert. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so please go ahead.
So what I want to do is I want to leap off of something that Paul said, and what he talked about is governance has to do with risk and risk mitigation. And when you think about it from an organizational perspective, we work for companies. They sell products, and what do we have that's valuable? It's our products and it's our data. So really, at a high level, it's about mitigating the risk of exposure of our data and information about our products. So who actually does that within a company? So we here at Taiho, we are embarking on this journey for starting AI governance. So in terms of doing a brainstorming session with our AI architect as well as our quality organization, we've identified a couple of different groups in our company that really need to be involved with our process and our journey because it involves products and data as well as our clinical trials and so on. So what does that look like? So what first and foremost you want to you first think of the IT organization, and the IT organization for us, that's where our AI guru is. So that person needs to be involved in governance. But it's more than just that. It's also about privacy. Our privacy officer, as well as our cybersecurity, those elements need to be involved in terms of what you're looking for. Um, when you expand out a little bit more, you want to get your quality group involved as well as legal and compliance. because when you get legal and compliance involved, you're talking about your data privacy officer. Again, you want to keep your data to you. You don't want your data or your intellectual property exposed out into the real world, or have it possibly be exposed to companies that want to train their models on your data and then sell it to someone else. So you have to be looking for protecting your company and your company's data. Additionally, you might want to get involved with your HR and your people group or your finance group as well, because that involves your financial data, information that goes out, communications. It also talks about, you also think about people and hiring practices and things like that, various applications, any application that you use within the company to help you do your job. If AI gets involved in that, you have to always be worried about the kind of data that those systems store, as well as what would happen if that information gets out into the real world. So to get back to what I was trying to get to, is governance is about risk, assessing the risk of how AI would come into your company and how to mitigate it, and having the right people in a group, in a discussion, in a committee, talk about when various AI applications or various AI models, using that resource of all of those different topic areas coming in to help decide how is this going to impact and what do we need to do to protect the company. So I will hand it off to Louis. Maybe you can add a few things.
Sure, Margaret. Well done. I guess I'll add a few, but you really did a really nice job.
We can skip you, Louis, if you want. I mean, Margie got it all.
No. We're not even
Uh,
started. Our process is only at the infancy. This is just based on my research and trying to, so that we know, going with eyes wide open, so that we can actually start this process in the right way. But I think, Louis, you actually have a process that's actually in place. So I would love to hear the pluses, minuses from you.
sure. So maybe I'll approach this from a tactical perspective. We did start by understanding, AI and what's AI and how it impacts, our day-to-day jobs. But also we looked out and see what type of regulations are out there, and to be clear, what we do is all for internal use. So we don't sell any of our AIs. It's for, our users in R&D, commercial, supply chain, etc. So, for example, there's the EU AI Act that was released. There's some other regulations out there. I know there's a lot of draft guidance documents on this from the FDA. NIST has a playbook on AI and risk management. So we had to look at all of those, and we had to look at it, and as Margaret just mentioned, not just from an IT perspective, because we needed some legal experts, privacy, cybersecurity, etc. So we created a Tiger team that looked at all of those collectively, and we started with establishing AI policy, AI procedures. We defined our risk categories. We made sure that those were aligned with the EU AI Act, with NIST, and some other standards in the industry. And then we created an AI governance board. I know there was the question on ownership. It's definitely tech or IT is not the owner. So we wanted to make sure we're a key stakeholder. We are the implementer. We are the people that will make it, live. But we've made sure that we have a governance board that includes people from the groups that I mentioned: privacy, legal, compliance, etc., but also the BUs, the business units. Okay, because they're the ones that know what the intended use is. And then we created categories for what goes to the governance board versus, can be reviewed internally. And then the risk criteria as far as prohibited, high risk, low risk, etc. And we implemented that process. We put that process in place, and that's where now I would say it's been about a year now that it's been in existence. And we've been doing process improvements along the way. So I'll stop here because I don't want to steal the thunder. I know Khaled has some other slides and maybe questions. I can go into more details as we go on.
I'm here, the Jay Leno, right? I asked the question, and you guys are the stars. I'm gonna go back to Paul actually, and Paul, again, I want to leave it up to you as to what information to give us, right? Because I know you've been deep going into this. You've been helping organization behind the scene, and I loved when Louis mentioned ownership, and I get a couple of slides on that. Who owns what, which is really really important. But I'd like for Paul to really speak from his perspective before I show the slides. And really, this is not a slideshow by no means. It's just listening to the expert talking. So please go ahead, Paul.
So you want me to talk about why is this important? Why should we be thinking about AI governance? I think I mentioned earlier, regulations are coming fast, especially out of the European Union and non-US markets. So for global companies, strategically, it is extremely important to get ahead of what's coming. Um, but you know, geez, I should never say forget about the regulations, but putting the regulations aside for a moment, um, I think the patient safety and product efficacy are really, there's somewhat of an eye opener based on a lot of research that I've been doing, just to give you a flavor, because I don't want to harp on the patient safety, although it is foremost in the risk category. Since 2023, the literature reports that there have been nearing 1,000 adverse events reported somehow due to AI sitting in the FDA mod database. Um, Out of that, roughly 400 were either directly or indirectly attributable to some sort of patient harm. The remaining portion is undetermined. It's for those of you that file MDRs, we have insufficient information, couldn't get the device back to really study it. So, um, unfortunately, and you may have seen in my LinkedIn post, there's roughly 220 actual AI harmful events that have occurred that came out of the FDA database. Um, and that's critical, right? We are not in the business to make unsafe or ineffective products. So that's where this governance piece really comes in. Let me talk about, because Margie and Louis brought up some interesting aspects that I think that a majority of us in regulatory and quality don't think about. What are the business risks? I want to take it. What are the potential business risks for not taking this seriously? Okay, well, we talked about regulatory noncompliance, right? Yes, that's a big risk, right? It could be fines, penalties, recalls, um, blocked market access, right? Those are the risks. Well, reputational damage is a big risk. Hey, I can't trust your product, right? You lose the public and regulator trust in your products or the quality of your processes or products that you build. You get negative media coverage, brand damage, right? Those are some business risks. Patients don't trust. Do you know a recent report said that 90% of the patients, when they go in and talk to their physician, they do not want to have recommendations or decisions made by artificial intelligence. They want that one to one discussion. And I'm an old man. I want that one to one exchange with my physician, right? Um, I, I don't want AI telling me. Remember, AI doesn't have emotions, right? It's a binary. Um, Legal liability. So, what is the legal liability potential? Lawsuits, right? Some of these products with artificial intelligence can result in malpractice litigation. Well, we as manufacturers, we have the deep pockets And if there is a hint that the AI didn't use sound data in training the algorithms, guess who's going to get roped into that litigation? The developer, the manufacturers. Safety failures, I talked about that a little bit. Financial loss, um, wasted research and development, right? You develop a tool to use for advanced automation. Well, you didn't really think it through, or you don't have sound data, and it makes flawed decisions, adversely impacting the quality of your components or the devices that you're manufacturing. Um, Reduced return on investments, right? That's a potential risk. Um, Unethical outcomes. Now, that's an interesting one, right? And that goes back to the importance of having sound data. Garbage in, garbage out, right? We hear that so often. The larger companies have large data sets that they can use to train. However, whether it's a large data set or a small data set, that bias factor has not been in a state of control today because of the limitations of the data currently available that represent patient demographics, for example, right? Disparities in um, social demographics across the patient spectrum, right? Healthcare is different for different social demographics. So we don't have sufficient data to really train the algorithms at this point. So we have to be attuned to that. Operational inefficiencies, missing market opportunities, those are all potential risks, right? You have to develop some automation, some machine learning to stay competitive, right? If you don't do that, you're going to lose market opportunities, but you have to still, again, do it responsibly, ethically, and true governance is an imperative to compete in this environment today. All right, I'll shut up. I'll get off my soapbox, Khaled.
This is
Mark,
great.
do it.
No, this is awesome, Paul. It's interesting. You mentioned a lot of the outcomes, for the lack of AI governance, policy, et cetera, controls. It reminds me back in the days when we used to train organizations on this is what happens when you get a 483 and a warning letter, right? It's going to impact your reputation. It's going to impact this, and literally, it's identical, right? And
Yeah,
but I really think this is a little bit more critical because going back to your AI and your doctor and by no mean here we're scaring the industry. We have to go that way, but we have to proceed with caution, right? Um, Guardrails, governance, understanding what we're doing, trusting, biased, etc. So thank you. This is a great insight. And by the way, just I want to pause here for a second. We are doing this as a series, ladies and gentlemen. August 27, we're going to expand on it a little bit. We've invited actually Danny Walter from the FDA to join us. Hopefully, he'll be able to join. But we're going to have a regulatory uh, input from either from the FDA or former FDAs that will be joining us. The lineup is not totally complete, but I know Paul will be there. I'm really wanting Margie to join. So going back to Margie. Margie, today, obviously, you're facing some pain points, right? Or a little bit of confusion around. Do you want to state those to see if these two gentlemen can help you with it? Just share a little bit of really the pain point that kind of stalling the progress to build an AI governance.
Well, the biggest piece is what do you do? And one of the other elements of governance has to do with training and upskilling. So what we would need to do is we need to learn about AI governance. We need to learn what's out there. We need to learn the regulations. We need to learn how expansive they are. There are a lot of as Paul said before, there are a lot of and as Louis as well, there are a lot of regulations coming out of Europe, but there are also expanding regulations coming out of Asia, there's some coming out of South America, Central America, and there are also individual states in the United States have some regulations as well, and they're all slightly different. And keeping all of that in mind, you need that's where the legal expertise comes in play. But like I said, the biggest piece is getting everyone to understand what is the responsibility of an AI governance board, getting people trained, getting people to understand. So in part of my research, and I will defer also to Louis and to Paul, but one of the things I have done is I have used some of the tools, either Copilot through Microsoft. You could use ChatGPT. Actually prompt those and ask, what does an AI governance training program look like? What is actually out there? How can you learn about things? So usually, I always like a good deal. I like to do as many things for free. So there are a lot of things either through Microsoft or through LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, you have to be a member to get the LinkedIn Learning, but there are definite courses, modules, things out there that you can use to start educating yourself, start learning about what these things mean. And there are other organizations out there, privacy organizations, cybersecurity organizations out there that are all, and other professional organizations that are starting to talk about AI and AI governance. I know that ISPE just came out with their AI, and GAMP at the same time kind of document. I don't want to identify any other programs out there. But that's where you take a look at what the responses are that you're getting from either Copilot or ChatGPT, and they give you some really good suggestions as and you decide how far you want to take it. In terms of governance, what I have been finding is that each company handles it different, and in terms of who owns governance, some people think it's legal and compliance, some people think it's IT, some people think it's QA. QA is not usually the one who owns it, but each company comes up with who's the right person based upon their experience, their interest, and what really, who is the one who winds up being head of the committee or something like that. But um, I do want to emphasize there's a training element to governance, whether it's the governance board themselves or the organization themselves as well. So that's really where what I
Yeah.
would say to contribute.
Awesome. I wanna add one more thing here to all the resources you're mentioning, and I'm gonna take the opportunity to promote compliance group here. You can call your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I mean, not Spider-Man, Khaled. We can help you with developing your AI governance. Just one thing about upskilling, and uh, I love what you said that because all of us coming from a compliance background. Well, we all came from IT in general. At least I did. I know Louis did. Do you think, and this question really to you, Margie, or anyone else, do you think that quality, compliance, legal, they really need to get any training on AI, right? Understanding the technology behind AI so they can actually advise you appropriately.
Absolutely, I do. They definitely would need to have some sort of at least basic type of. I think it comes under AI fluency, understanding the history of it, understanding um, understanding how AI can go wrong and
Mhm.
why you cannot completely rely on it. You need to know what are the pitfalls. So it's good, but there are also pitfalls as well. And if you understand those parameters, you don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be an expert in AI programming or whatever, or code review, whatever it is. But you do need to understand you have to start understanding what the guardrails are so that you can understand what you have to do for your organization. And each organization, I believe, is going to come up with something slightly different.
Awesome, great. Louis, if you'd like to add anything.
I think for us, you're right. Each organization is doing it differently. For us, we have defined within IT an AI learning path. So a group of us got together and basically looked at what's out there and what are the best courses that people can go through. And I agree with you 100%. I don't need to be a developer. I don't want to become a developer, but I need to understand AI and how it works on a high level. What's the difference between an AI agent, Gen AI, autonomous AI? Okay, how it works and what's the kind of the high level kind of mechanism behind it. Because as we start to implement those types within the organization, you need somebody from compliance, from quality that comes in with a basic understanding so they can help to move things forward. Because if they come in with the same kind of mindset of, okay, it needs to meet 21 CFR Part 11, I need to see this, I need to see an article, I need to, it may not work that way. So it's educating yourself, elevating yourself, and then it's a mind shift because it does work different than your traditional IT system. So this is where having that education, the learning path. So in our organization, we define an AI learning path based on your role, based on your, what you're doing in the organization. And obviously the people who are doing AI development are going through a completely different, high intensity courses versus if you're just compliance or quality, it's a lot less intense. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to speak the same language and be able to have a constructive, effective conversation when we start talking about the implementation, validation, documentation, etc.
Great. Thank you, Louis. Paul, any final words here? Because what I'd like to do, actually, before the final words, if you don't mind, just want to get a sense if there's any questions out there from anyone. We're going to open the questions. Probably have just 2 more minutes, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So please start typing your questions in the chat. Paul, anything you wanted to add to what Margie and Louis just mentioned?
Um, Gosh, I could add and talk for the next 3-4 hours, but
I have, I'm sorry, I have a doctor's appointment, so hurry.
there are a couple things. I think it has to be stressed. Every company is going to approach governance differently, and especially the size of the company, large companies versus the small entrepreneurial type. Large companies are leading the pack right now. I think if I were to look at my crystal ball, the middle-sized companies will start leveraging and putting governance in place. I think the smaller companies right now, because the challenges that they have limited resources, um, and limited capacity. I think they'll be slowly seeing what fits for them to be responsible in development of AI. There's I think a really important component of governance that we really haven't mentioned. And governance also, what does it do for an organization? Number one, change control, right? You see a lot in the media and on social media that, hey, I've got this AI algorithm, it works beautifully, it's static, it never changes. Don't assume that. It's like driving a car. You drive it off the lot, it's obsolete. AI, static AI development is not effective. Data is constantly expanding. There are more data points um, that companies can use to train and better refine their algorithms. So that change control and how you manage that becomes so crucial before you release that next iteration. Validation, right? We didn't mention how important the validation is. We'll probably mention that and how to approach it in another session. But I think key to me is continuous improvement, right? Governance ensures continuous improvement, not only of the product, but your processes, gaining more efficiencies and that type of thing. So it develops a culture within an organization, if you do it right, of this continuous improvement mindset, right? So um, I think that those are sort of the things I would bring out on the table right away. Um, yeah.
Great, great. Thank you so much. I'm gonna take a pause here for a second. I know we want to do a poll. So Bhavna, if we can go ahead and let's do the poll now, and that probably could trigger some questions for folks. So please go ahead and set it up. Okay, does your organization have a defined AI governance? That's not bad, actually. Okay, but
It's
we got
about
only
mm,
30%. It's going. That's great. Okay, that's good. That's good.
this is a lot better than what they're saying in the literature.
Yeah, yeah. See, this is real life. Oh, it
Oh,
dropped down now. What's going on? It's like,
no, I think we spoke too fast, Khaled.
yeah. Let's not celebrate too soon, but that's okay. I love to see that. But interesting, Paul, when you said something about validation, we got a question, but we'll answer it after we run all the three polls. Okay, so I think we got 60% vote here, and we
Yeah.
landed at 38% yes and 62%. Bhavna, can you go on the second poll, please? And while we're doing that, the question, when we say AI validation, does that mean validating AI functionality or the data that goes into training these LLMs or both? So we'll pause on that question. We'll answer it soon.
Is
All
that a
right.
trick question?
All right. Too many things going on here. Let's go back to the poll. Where is your organization today in terms of implementing AI governance? Okay, not started. Okay, planning stage, early implementation, mature governance program, which is interesting. That will probably trigger a question for me to Louis
Mhm.
on whether he considers the governance he's implemented in various organizations as to mature governance program, and when do we consider a mature governance program?
I would say it's early maturity program, and we have the pieces in place, and we continue to iterate and improve. Is it
Yeah.
perfect? No, but again, it's 1 year old, so it's not something I can sit here and say, yeah, it's mature and we're done, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Paul, it sounds like you got an opinion on that. Would love to hear it.
No, I agree with Louis. I mean, this is a highly dynamic environment that that AI is introduced, right? It's constantly changing. Um, the rules are going to be changing, right? One of the biggest challenges, I think Margie alluded to this, the regulatory complexities, right? There are no definitive guidelines or standards, or even laws for that matter, that tell you how to govern AI. So it's very, very fluid. I think to say, yeah, we're 100% mature is a misnomer. You're going to continue to learn as this evolution accelerates, right? Those numbers look pretty good, though, um, team, right? So 46% are in the planning stage. It, governance needs to be in a business strategy, right?
Yes.
So this is good. Yeah.
Yep. All right. The last poll, what type of support would most help you advance AI governance. Let's see about that. And are you guys able to see the questions in the chat by any chance?
Yeah, I see him.
Yeah, they pop up.
Okay.
Yeah, we see.
Please get ready if you want to answer any of them. Uh, get your answer ready while we're waiting for the poll to be concluded here. Case studies, I would agree. Yeah, that's seems
Ooh, vast majority waiting on regulatory clarifications. Oh,
that's usually the case. It's the fear factor of
yeah.
the agency, of EMEA, etc. On the
There,
screen, by the way, if you see my slide still, so I'm hoping that many folks here either, well, hopefully you know about the game guide for artificial intelligence from ISPE. They've actually, it was released a couple of weeks ago, has a lot of great information. I literally scanned through, not read, but please make time for it to read. You'll learn a lot. All industry practitioner from the ISPE community, from the GAM community, I definitely urge you um, become an ISPE member. You get a discount on it. So, but think about it. I mean, again, there's tons of guidance out there, but as you all know, we follow GAM 5, with everything we do, whether med device or pharma. Personally, I've lived with GAMP on my shoulder. We've always had the paper. Now they have it electronic. So it's really important to go ahead and look at that. All right. Let's see. Questions. So the first question: when we say AI validation, does AI functionality or the data that goes into training these LLMs or both? Who would like to answer that question?
I think, yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So, just to be clear, so far, the AI cases that we have seen that are GXP are low risk, and there is a human in the loop, because we also, like everybody else, we're waiting a little bit more clarification on this. But from a validation perspective, the AI is still an AI, is still an, goes through the same IT process for us from an SDLC perspective. You need to document the requirements, you need to make sure it's working well, et cetera. From training and the LLM and the data, we make sure that we know what the data sources are and what we're feeding the LLM and what we're training, but we're also periodically checking to make sure as it's learning on its own and it's making decisions, how's that impacting the outcome and the outputs as well. But I would go back and say, keep in mind, it's still looking at the low risk GXP use cases so far, and there's a human in a loop to make sure that that's being handled. So that's for GXP.
Thank you, Louis. Okay. Um,
I
Again,
think
to me, I look at it from an intended use. Look at the intended use. Look at it from, historically, we validate, and we, some organization don't think validation is an ongoing activity. It's beyond ongoing activity. I think we need to move into what we call a continuous validation. And
yeah.
last but not least, go digital. Make your life easier. Paul, it sounds like you wanted to say something, or you're just coughing.
No, I was coughing, but Louis brought up a good point. Human has to be in the loop,
Yes.
regardless of the risk, um, because if you don't have a human in the loop, then number one, it leads to over reliance, um, and also ignorance because you're ignoring the output and the results of the machine learning or the artificial intelligence, which will become a problem, right? And some of some of the guidance and the laws coming out of Europe, for example, Annex 11 that we've been reviewing, they clearly say keep the human in the loop. So, you know, yeah. Plus, it's smart. It really is smart. Sorry, Colin.
So I think from my perspective on this question, I think we need to remember when we're talking about computer software validation, it is software. And
Yeah.
software is provided to you, and you want to think of it is that it's, call it static if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
So it is at a certain place in time the way it is, and you're validating it, and you're having assurance that it's going to produce reliably. It's the intended use. With AI, the validation process is there's a model, there's an algorithm, and that algorithm was developed based upon the amount of data that was put into it,
Mhm.
and it
Yep.
was modulated, it was refined over time, but it is a model, it's an algorithm, it's, if you want to call it, a huge mathematical equation, think of it that way. And depending on the data that goes into it will determine how good or how bad it is. If it's a static algorithm, if, in other words, it stays pretty much the same and it's not constantly changing, versus some of the models that are out there, they're constantly changing with the data that goes in. So there's a difference. There's software validation, and then there's validation of your model. So it's almost like it's two different topics. And while some of the elements of how you validate are similar, and we talk about intended use, and that gets to the functionality, you have to remember it's two completely different topics in terms of validation.
Yep.
That's
Great.
a good point,
Thanks.
Mark. Yeah.
A good friend of mine just texted me, yes, AI still needs human. The machine can go to jail for you. So that makes sense.
That's a good one.
That's a
That's a
good
good
one.
one. Yeah.
Second question is, if we take help of ChatGPT while performing validation activity, should we trust the output 100%? What do you think?
You're relying on GPT to help you with your validation?
And yeah, I mean, it sounds like somebody's asking that question. Should we rely 100%? I mean, the answer is no. So,
No,
yeah,
no.
I'm going to the third question. From an Alcoa Plus Plus standpoint, is there guidance on citation attributability with AI in documenting traceability? Any takers? So, from Alcoa standpoint, is there a guidance on citation attributability with AI in documenting traceability? I think I
Hmm.
I
will
think
take a look.
I'll say one thing. I think it depends on, and it kind of is a little bit with Chat GPT, the question 2 and question 3. I think it depends on how you prompt, let's say, your questions in terms of whatever let's say you're using Chat GPT. If you put into your prompt that you want resources and you want to factor in Alcoa plus plus and all that, it kind of guides what the result's going to be. But if you kind of do it a little bit more open, you
Yeah.
pretty much know that if you don't tell ChatGPT or Copilot, if you don't tell it to provide you a resource, it won't. And if you're not getting a resource of where it found that information or how it's being traceable or whatever it is, then that's when you start talking about like those legal aspects. You're going over the line of you know um, patent infringement, all those different things that are all considered no-nos. So you have to be careful how you ask these questions and how you do the prompts when you're trying to use some of the just generic things that are out there when you're looking for information. You have to be really careful.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how
a
I would
great.
answer the question.
I agree, Margie. That's a new career path for for the younger generation. How to develop prompts for Chat GPT and some of these others. But
Yep. Yep.
to your point, the other thing, and I think we've harped upon this several times, it's the data behind it. I don't know what the frequency is with some of these open AI like Chat GPT, how often they refresh with newer data. Um, so you have to be mindful of that. And they may have gone beyond 2023 and maybe updated their database with 2024 data, but be mindful of that. A lot of the data that these um, algorithms use, they don't get refreshed enough to be current, right? College should know that from experience, right?
Actually, I'm really texting my chat GPT. I call it my girlfriend. I'm testing how fresh is your data. Guys,
Uh,
this is great. This is great. I know there's a lot more questions, but I'm keeping them secret for next for August 27. Um, guys, I don't know, Louis and Margie. I really want to invite you. I don't care if we have 5 people. The more, the merrier. Personally, I learn from you every time I talk to you guys. I learn from you. I know we meet every other Friday, but it's really interesting what I'm learning from you every single time we talk. Um, I just want to give you a 2 minutes final wrap up as we were actually beyond time. We have 3 minutes before 11 o'clock. Louis need to drop, and I know Margie needs to drop. So Margie, please give us your final comment or recommendation to the industry.
Um, I guess I would say that on the conservative side, some may think that this process is scary, and they might want to hold back and wait for the regulatory, as the poll said, wait for the regulatory environment to settle down. I think we need to accept the fact that it's not going to settle down, and it's going to be in a state of flux. And if you wait for that regulatory environment to settle down, you're going to find yourself very behind. Um, if you leap in, as Louis is experiencing, and I'll hand it off to Louis, um, they've gone through the process, and he's at a point where even he has said they're still in early implementation. Our company is not even there yet. Is not even there yet. So if you approach it as a continuous improvement type of project or a continuous learning and
yeah,
keeping an element of openness about it, I think you can, and you have the right people involved. There's always an element of having the right people involved with the right open-mindedness. Um, I think you can embark on the journey in a safe way based upon how your company accepts change and growth. That's all I would. That's all I would say is don't be afraid of the future because the future is here and now. Otherwise, you'll be left behind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll keep my thoughts simple and short. We all know the ship has sailed. In my 27 years, I haven't seen a technology move so fast as much as AI, and so, new terminology is used every single day. Literally every time I go to the gym, working out, whatever I'm doing, I go to Yahoo or sorry, YouTube, and I kind of find any updated information, and I just listen as I'm working out, and I learn something completely new every day. And then I come back to the office and I see the developers and other teams are using new terms that I'm not even keeping up. So the short message from me is get on the boat, start to learn as fast as you can because it's moving so fast.
Yep. And
yeah.
Louis, just quick question. You go to the gym how often? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry,
Mm.
Paul, go ahead. And then, by the way, ChatGPT said her data is up to June 2024. See, this is crazy.
Precisely,
Yes.
precisely my point. Hmm.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Paul. Back to you, sir.
What do you want me to say? I think I've said
Uh,
enough. I mean,
Final words. I mean, you said a lot, but final words.
I
If you don't
think
have anything,
Margie and
go to the gym.
Louie, yeah, they go to the gym, right? Margie and Louie, I think really hit the salient points. Don't don't be a bystander and sit on the sidelines. Um, it's good to see that this audience, I think, if my Alzheimer's hasn't kicked in, 60% said they're in the planning stages. That's a good sign because um, right now, literature is saying in the United States, 15 to 20% conservatively are actually in the planning stage of developing governance for artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's way too low. That's scary. Um, but we have to keep this on the forefront, quite honestly, um, for patients and for business operations efficiency and being, ahead of the curve before you get hit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
And really, my last words here. August 27, we're going to have regulatory representation, and we're going to have case studies. We're going to talk about case studies and use cases in terms of how things are applied. Please bring your questions back. And one guy here is trying to provoke me and dare me. Someone has to go to the gym. The machine can't go for him. Did you hear that, Louis? So you need to go to the gym. AI cannot go for you, just like it can't go to jail.
Exactly.
Booyah,
Yeah.
I did it. All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It's awesome. And we'll talk soon. I'll talk to you Friday. By the way, this Friday, the Fix It team is working on developing and putting together comments against Annex 11 and Annex 22. We're going to have definitely a webinar or two discussing what's in the new Annex 11. So keep that on your radar. That is coming up soon by FIXA and hosted by Compliance Group. Thanks to everyone. Appreciate it and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.